Okay, we're making a treat today. We're going to be making pickles, and not fried pickles, but we're going to be making pickles that are oven baked. So you can prepare them ahead and put them in the oven right before guests arrive. My nieces and nephews' favorite. Now, we typically will fry them because we can fry them in bulk, but these are delicious in the oven as well. So I'm going to show you how we do this. So the very first thing, I have my recipe, and we're going to be making, the recipe is called fake fried potatoes because they're oven baked, but we're going to go ahead and give you the setup of the pickle, and then you decide whether you want to deep fry them or if you'd prefer to oven bake them. All right, so the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my Panko breadcrumbs set up. My Panko breadcrumbs, I have a bag, and these are Japanese style breadcrumbs. There's a bag. There's also the plain ones, like the same that you come in a bag or in a container, or you can get them flavored. Like this one is Italian flavored. And I'm not gonna do the Italian flavor today because I am putting dill with mine. You can put whatever spice you would like with yours. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to use the plain ones here. I'm gonna go ahead and cut off the side, and I'm going to measure out these in one of my dishes. So I need 1 cup of Panko, and in this Panko, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add a few different spices that I like. And you get to choose what you'd like to add. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to choose a little bit of garlic powder. I'm going to choose a little bit of dill. Now, dill is a unique flavor, but we're using dill pickles, so that works. So don't add a lot because it is a strong, especially a dried herb. You could use fresh. Fresh would be amazing with any spice. And then I'm gonna add some cayenne pepper. A little bit of cayenne pepper just for heat. It certainly goes well with this. My nieces and nephews love the sriracha in mayonnaise or the ranch dressing with sriracha added. It adds a spiciness to the pickle at the end. All right, so I have my cayenne pepper, I have my garlic powder, and I have my breadcrumbs here. I'm gonna add a little bit of pepper. I'm gonna add a little bit of salt. And I'm gonna stir this up in my Panko. Now what I'm gonna do to these Pankos, I'm gonna add in my butter. And I have 2 tablespoons of melted butter. Now, it seems kind of odd that you're wetting the breadcrumbs because the breadcrumbs typically you think would be dry. Yes, I am, but I'm using the butter to make the outside of the pickle crispy. And that butter will really make it crispy. So let's go ahead and toss it in. So it looks a tiny bit wet, but it's still pretty dry. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to put that right in my 3rd dish. Now I'm gonna explain to you the dishes that I have here so you have an idea of all the dishes that I have. All right, so the very first dish I have the Panko breadcrumbs that we just mixed with the butter and the spices. Next one I have 2 eggs, and I whisk 2 eggs and just whisk it up in a little container, okay? The more surface area you have, the better. You could use 3 pie plates. I use mini pie plates. And then this is just plain flour. Now, could you add the salt and pepper to the flour? Yes, you could, but you're not gonna use all that flour. You're gonna use probably most of the breadcrumbs, and I'll show you why. Now, to prepare our pickles, I went ahead and I put a plate with a paper towel with half of it hanging over, and I'm gonna go ahead and show you how I slice them. They're about 1/4 of an inch. Now you can get your own dill pickles that you make. You can pickle your own cucumbers and use those. They're delicious, especially fresh. Or you can pick any kind of pickles that you want. Probably bringing them to room temperature wouldn't be a bad idea. About 1 cup for this recipe. You certainly can make more. As fast as they come out of the fryer, my nieces and nephews eat them when we're at family gatherings because they're that delicious. Now, once you put them down, you're gonna put them on your paper towel like this. You're gonna fold over this paper towel and you're just going to gently press. Because the idea is you don't, especially if you're frying these, you don't want them to be really wet. Now, are they going to be dry and disgusting? No, they just really, you're able to get a lot of the juice out. You don't want them dripping. So we're gonna go ahead and put these over here on my plate that's dry. So these are my dried pickles. I'm gonna set these aside, and I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna start showing you the breading. Now, the breading process is really pretty simple. What we're doing is we're going to be putting a pickle inside the flour, just plain flour, and we're gonna get it all floured up. So it looks like just a coin with white flour on it. Then we're gonna put it in the egg. Seems counterintuitive, but we're putting in the egg. Now that flour helps the egg stick. Without the egg sticking, we couldn't get the breadcrumbs to stick. So now I'm gonna put that in and I'm gonna bury him. And I'm going to pull him out, and he is a very filled. And I'm gonna put it on a tray that has a little rack inside of it. Now, if you didn't have one of those, cookie sheets are just fine. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do a few more of these. And we're getting the flour. Make sure you don't have a lot of flour. There are people that will tell you, especially, people that are, really good at this kind of thing. I tend to just do it however it works. It works for me, and then I just go with it. There are people that actually will have a dry hand and a wet hand. I can do that only so long, and then I lose track. So I just do both hands, and I get done the job, and I get it quickly in the oven. Now, these are going to bake at 450, which is a really high temperature, for about 15 minutes. And what makes them so crispy at the end, what makes them so delicious, is the fact that they're cooked at such a high temperature. So as you notice, my fingers get full and more full of all the ingredients that I'm rolling them in, which is not a bad thing. They taste all the same in the end. All right, so once I get these all breaded with flour, and I get the egg mixture, and I get the panko, and remember, I'm packing on the panko because the panko is mixed with that liquid, that melted butter, and it's really gonna be crispy in the oven. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to add a favorite of mine. Now, you wouldn't do this if you were deep frying unless you added it to the panko. I'm gonna just sprinkle a little bit of grated Parmesan on top of all of these pickles because I love that flavor. So let's get 2 more on here. My oven just rang and said it was really ready for the pickles. So we're gonna go ahead and get these in. And they only stay in for about 15 minutes. It's kind of the mimic of the fry because it's at such a high temperature. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do, I'm gonna go ahead and get most of this off of my fingers, and I'm gonna grab my ground Parmesan, and I'm gonna put just a tiny bit on each. Now, I've put underneath this rack, I've put a piece of parchment paper or tin foil. It just makes cleanup that much easier. So on top of each of these, I'm putting real Parmesan cheese. Now, you could get the pre-grated kind. You don't have to add the cheese at all, but I just really enjoy that extra flavor, and it is really salty. Parmesan is really salty, so it really does taste good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put this tray in the oven. If you take a look at it, we have our dozen pickles that are going to be baked, not fried. And I'm gonna come back and I'll show you what they look like. Okay, here they are. A little warm. I'd like you to see them. So I'm going to hold them up so you can see them close. Very crispy. Those pieces of Parmesan that I put on top really did brown nicely and kind of melt in. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you that these are pretty delicious to eat. And what I've done, and you certainly can oil this, this rack if you want, or do it on parchment paper or oil a little pan. You don't need to do a lot because really there's butter in the panko, so it really doesn't stick all that much. So I'm gonna plate a few of these. And what's really, really nice about them baked is you're not over, ooh, that one lost his, it lost his body. Man, does that look good. He lost all of his crumbs on the bottom. But what's nice about them making so many of these at a time is you literally don't have to be over the stove frying them. Even though you can fry quite a few at a time, you don't have to do that if you bake them all. And they're just delicious. Now what I did was I went ahead and I took some ranch and I mixed it with a little sriracha. And that is the way my family likes it. And I'm not a big spicy person myself, but the pickles have such a nice acidity to them, and then you add the little bit of either ranch and sriracha stirred together, or you could even do a little mayonnaise stirred together with it. There's lots of other dips you could do. You could even do sour cream with a little dill, because remember we put dill inside. These are delicious, and you literally can make a gallon of pickles all at once in the oven, 2 trays, dried enough, breaded, and you can have them in the refrigerator or sitting out ready to go in the oven when your guests arrived, and this would be a terrific appetizer.